Now we move to the last session of this conference, and that will be on the future. It will be on the new generation of creators, and I'll ask the moderator to come forward already, and possibly at the same time the whole panel. Your moderator will be Péter Lábody, who is the vice president of the Hungarian IP office responsible for legal and international affairs. Péter.
Thank you very much, Harry, and it is a privilege to be here. I'm very happy. I have to say, we got to this last panel, so I take the liberty to praise the organizers, Harry, Veronique, Andrea, and the whole crew at the EU IPO. I think this is a great event, well organized, and we have lots of insights here. Being me, the last moderator, I hope I will not mess this up now at this moment, and will complement what has been done by the others. I think what is quite clear, based on the discussions we had yesterday and today, that we are navigating in a very complex environment if we are talking about the creative ecosystem and copyright as such in this area. There are many stakeholders here, many interests, policy approaches, but yet it is a very colorful IP title that we are dealing with. I think it also very much dependent on technology, as we all heard about it. It used to be with internet. Now maybe that's a bit behind us, but as we heard about enforcement in the digital age, we are still struggling with some questions there. But artificial intelligence has really kicked the doors on policymakers and everyone in this area. So I think it is totally legitimate to feel a bit lost and insecure in these circumstances now, talking about right holders, policymakers, or all who are active in this field. But above all, creators and the next generation of creators, they might have also this kind of insecurity, whether is it wise for them to dedicate their lives on creation, on creativity for the benefit of us all. And exactly for this is this panel gathered now here, in order to provide some kind of positive messages, some examples that we can rely on, and maybe see the light in the tunnel, the end of the tunnel, and hope that is not the train coming. So the parties who will be here today, I will now introduce to you, and we will jump into the discussions at the first moment afterwards. So first we have here Dominick Luquer, sitting there, who is the General Secretary of the International Federation of Actors, and that is a global trade union federation representing actors and performers in more than 60 countries. So welcome, Dominick. Then I'm very happy to have Cecilie here, Cecilie Waagner Falkenström, who is an artist utilizing artificial intelligence, machine learning, LLMs, GPT since 2016, and is the founder of the open source LLM inference engine, Nobody Who, and director of Artificial Mind. Thanks. Then Niclas Molinder is also with us. He's a songwriter, producer, music publisher, and engineer, and the founder of Creators Learn Intellectual Property, as we heard, CLIP. And also, it is, of course, a global project run by WIPO, and its aim is to raise awareness in the music industry. So welcome, Niclas.
Thank you.
And of course, last but not least, we also have Ibán García de Blanco, a former MEP with us, and an international affairs director at LASKER, working on EU affairs related to AI and copyright. So therefore, he has also been deeply involved in negotiations on the EU AI Act. So welcome you all, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. And jumping already to the discussion, I will turn to Dominick, being, as you heard, a representative of actors worldwide, basically. And we heard even yesterday the Minister of Denmark that deepfake video that was shown already indicated that this is something really affecting actors globally, the phenomenon of AI and of generative AI. So first, I would like to ask you, could you dig a bit deeper on what is at stake now, what is going on, what fears you have, what challenges you have to face?
Thank you very much, Peter, and good afternoon, everyone, including everyone that's following us online. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's great to be part of this conversation. I wish we could have had this conversation up front, but because it's a very important matter, but I'm sure you've all realized the implications for the performer community with respect to deepfakes, digital replicas, digital clones, as you've seen this, telltale example right up at the beginning of the conference. So deepfakes are very realistic representations of someone's voice, image, and likeness, and they're often exploited in ways that those individuals have not, and probably, in many cases, would never have authorized. And they are so realistic that they can easily trick people into thinking that what they are actually looking at, what they are listening at, is true, is real. And performers, as you all understand, are the visible tip of the iceberg because of their the media visibility, they're very mediatic, and it's a matter of serious concern to them because they're still predominantly targeted and impersonated without their knowledge and without their consent on hyper-exposed content that can cause them serious emotional, financial, and also reputational damage. Not to speak about the consequences that the cloning of their voice and the cloning of their image and likeness may have on future job opportunities. So there's a lot at stake for the performer community. If you think about it, if any one of you has a computer, a laptop, or whatever, and it can be stolen at any given time, with a bit of luck, you'll have safeguarded your information somewhere in the cloud. You have, and you may be able to purchase a new equipment and get on with your work. But for performers rely on their voice. Performers rely on their image and their likeness to make a living. That's all they have. And if that is taken away from that, if that biometric identity is taken away from them, it's pretty hard for them to take it back. And it can be used in ways that can destroy their reputations and can really cause substantial damage and harm. And I'm talking about, this is about also looking at future generations. Well, imagine a performer that's just about to start, and is made to sign away all their rights on their image, on their voice, on their visual expressions. The future might look a little bleak for them. But I don't want to make these a special case for performers. I think what we are facing now is something that is becoming a bit of a societal issue. It's not just the performers; it's everyone, from the late Pope to heads of governments, politicians, down to the neighbor next door to your house, or even someone from your family, whose identity may be stolen and may be used for purposes of fraud on a mass scale. And so it's not just, let's not only see it as an issue for the performers. It's much larger than that. And in an ideal world, I think one would expect deepfakes to be addressed by a clear set of rules, granted on informed consent, control, and compensation. But unfortunately, that is not the case. And at present, making sense, and let alone making practical use of the acquis, is really complex, resource-demanding, and highly unpredictable for anyone wishing to avail themselves of those tools. And we've been talking a lot about copyright. Now, if we look at the copyright acquis and what is there that may be useful, well, there's not much, to be honest, because to the extent, for instance, that a deepfake may be considered to be a reproduction of protected content or expressive content, this might constitute a copyright or a neighboring rights violation. However, in our case, from a performer perspective, it's a company most of the time to which we transfer those rights that will need to take action, and not the performers, unless they might be able, in some cases, to throw in a case based on moral rights, but moral rights, as we know very well, are not harmonized at European level. And even for a company, the burden of proof can be extremely challenging and does not guarantee immediate takedowns. Liability remains very fishy, And all of this is making the outcomes of any litigation quite uncertain. So, and just to conclude, this is based on copyright, but let's not forget, a lot of deepfakes are based on content that is not copyright protected, either because it's in the public domain or simply because of the narrow construction of copyright neighboring laws at national level, or of course also personal data, which is available freely on the
Thank
internet.
you, Dominick. Yeah, I think we can understand that the challenge is big. A lot has to be done, but as we promised, we will be positive in this panel. So I will also provide you the opportunity to say, what do you see? Do you see like practical examples that could help you, or police interventions that could help us feel a little better in these terms?
I will try to be optimistic. I'll do my best. But some of the information that we're getting, like with deepfake production growing at 900% annually, are quite frightening. But I'll try to be positive. I think I'll focus on two things. One is we need better contracts. Okay. Now, we heard yesterday from Natalie, I hope she's still here, it's very difficult for individual performers to negotiate good contracts, which is why we need also good collective contracts, collective agreements. And you're probably all aware, you've seen it was on all media, excuse me, the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. It was a 4-month strike. The purpose of that strike was precisely to obtain a good contract, and specifically new and groundbreaking provisions on AI. And that's one of the kind of things that we definitely need. And there are still some obstacles towards collective representation in our sector due to the fact that our members mostly work as independent contractors. And so, collective representation is not fully accessible to them. The other important thing where I think that could provide an answer is policy. And here I would like to briefly mention and recommend the ratification of the Beijing Treaty by the European Union. It's somehow been lost somewhere behind the scenes. I think it's very important that we continue to do that, because it's about extending protection also for European performances in other countries that have ratified the treaty, and moral rights harmonization. But also we're looking very interestingly at some developments, like in Denmark, for instance, or like in the US, where policymakers from all fronts, from right to the left, are looking into introducing a new property right, granting people ownership about their voice, their identity, their biometric identity, their face and likeness, creating a legal basis for them to demand removal of deepfakes, unauthorized deepfakes, impersonations from the platform, and also seek compensation and damages in civil courts. So I think that's something that we'd really like to encourage. I'd like to also mention the fact that the deepfakes federal law, which is being discussed in the US, is a bipartisan piece of legislation. It's supported by all the stakeholders. It's supported by the AI companies. So if it's possible to have all these people agreeing on this principle, on this right over there, wouldn't it be possible to have it over here as well? And I think that's what we need, because, of course, that only makes sense if similar protections are extended to performers and each and every individual on a global scale. Thank you.
Thanks, Dominick. You managed to be positive there, so thanks for that. And it will be good to follow up on these actions. And now I'm turning to Cecilie, who is a living example of using artificial intelligence in terms of creativity and breaking the boundaries of creativity that we used to have. Please tell us about how you utilize these tools and how you see the future in these terms.
Thank you so much. So hello everybody, I'm Cecilie from Copenhagen, and I'm extremely excited to be here today with all of you. Looking forward to also talk to you at lunch. Yeah, I'm an artist working with AI or machine learning, LLM, GPT technology. And I've been working with these technologies all the way back since 2016. So before AI was really, a thing, at least generative AI was a thing. I'm creating these large-scale interactive artworks. So you have to envision you go into, for example, a large museum. There's a room, and in the room, there's maybe a voice talking to you, and whatever you do can influence what's happening in the room. And the generative technology can also influence kind of like, maybe your reflection upon yourself and become this mirror where you maybe have to think about your own engagement with these technologies from a new perspective. So you can say that I work with AI, machine learning, from two different angles. So from the first angle, AI is the subject matter I investigate through my artworks. So many of my artworks engage with questions around data harvest, the human labor practices, data workers working behind the machines. What happens when a technology becomes humanized? What are the seductive or manipulative qualities that this technology enables, etc.? So a lot of questions around kind of like how our human relationship to the technology and to each other mediated through this technology is changing. And then, of course, I also use AI or machine learning as the media through which I bring forth my artistic creation. So in my studio, I employ a range of software engineers, data scientists who are working with me in my artistic practice, where we're, building models, sampling data sets, training models, fine-tuning, etc. And I also work a lot with researchers and with their data sets, because obviously when you are an artist working with kind of like building and training AI, you need vast amounts of data. So to be able to get the data in a good way, I often work with researchers' data set that they then offer me to use, and then of course also a lot of open source, both tech stack and data sets. So coming into kind of like, where is this going? What does the future hold? And maybe also, a positive angle of how, a small artistic practice can maybe also change the way we think about ourselves and maybe our limitations in this field, because I think many of us, including myself, maybe often feel a little kind of like, oh, what should we do? The States and China, they're so ahead and they have so much money to pour into this field. And how can we, in a way, from a European perspective, and of course also on a personal perspective, what can we do? How can we, be part of this, the future that's evolving? So what, of course, occurred to me early on in my artistic practice is that, when you're an artist, you have extremely limited resources. So, and since I'm building the models and training the models myself together with my team, we need to be able to train, and we cannot afford to train a big DBT or LLM model. So we have always been really, you can say, forced to, for economic reasons, but of course also data security reasons, to be really good at training really small models locally on our own GPUs. And I think this is something that is becoming more and more vital, and also where we will see the future moving forward. Because, of course, what we're discussing a lot now is how kind of like, of course, big tech, they have almost exclusivity on training models, because you need big compute powers to be able to train the models. And then also the whole thing about that then it's cloud-based and all of us has to upload our data. But the way I've created many of my artworks, when you train the models yourself, they can also run locally, which means that you don't need to upload your data to a cloud. And I think that is the future we're moving into. So what I have, because one thing is that I've been extremely fortunate to have my studio and to be able to employ software engineers. But of course, not everybody can do that. So what I've decided is to take my tech stack and open source it into a new company where you can use the tech stack for free. It's called Nobody Who. You can find it on the code base on GitHub. Use it for free. And the whole idea with this is actually to enable way more people to get access to training and running small language models, so SLMs, locally and also on small end-user devices, so on the phone, on the laptop, to enable kind of like a democratization of the LLM technologies. Because I think a big problem, of course, is the copyright issues. But then there is the whole issues around that LLM is not an accessible technology. Yeah, you can go in and prompt, but then you are kind of like defined by however that model was trained and the fine-tuning of the model. But if we want to make this a more kind of like democratic technology, we actually need to enable way more people to be able to train small models on small data sets. Because the good thing with small models is that you can train on way less data, which enables all of us to train our own models. So that's where the future is going.
Yes, thanks. Just one follow-up, being you're an artist among us. How do you see this evolving in terms of the audience? How you can manage to make your message towards the audience? Because creativity is a human creation or a human value. And what would you advise to the next generation of those authors who are, or creators who are willing to also engage in using these kind of tools?
So first of all, I get asked the question all the time, will AI be the end of the artists? And I will say definitely not. Because, AI or machine learning models are defined by the data they're trained on, and they're defined by the mathematical model they are, basically. Whereas we as human beings, we have the capacity of wanting the impossible. And I think that's a core thing that we as human beings need to stay at the tip of our toes in terms of challenging what are the capacities of these technology, but also what are the, you can say, the capacities of our capabilities in new ways of thinking and new ways of reasoning around who we are, but also, of course, what technology is. So we need human beings to be able to take the next step. And, AI is not going to be the final technology. There'll be a new technology tomorrow. So I think the vital thing here is to always keep in focus that there's always a human behind the machine. And, in all my artworks, even though I work with machine learning techniques and big data sets, there is so many human decision-making processes behind. So I think that is kind of like a key thing that we need to stay aware that also when it comes to the big AIs, there's a lot of human decision-making processes behind. And of course, that brings hope to us as humans, but of course it also brings responsibility because we need to hold people accountable for the AIs they're creating. And then moving into the kind of like next generation of artists and young people working with AI. So I think this is a technology that can challenge us to, in a way, rethink what does it mean to be creative. How can you think something new at the edge of the technology's capacities and your own human capabilities? So there's something about wanting the new. And then I think there's also a vital thing where art has a big role to play here, because I feel that many people feel a little kind of like lost in, but I'm not an expert in AI, how can I know and have any say in where this world should go? The politicians in EU, they must make some decisions, or the big tech companies, they must kind of like figure out where we should go. But of course, the reality is that we live in democratic societies, and as such, we need a democratic conversation. And that's where I really think art can play a vital role, because art can make this subject matter something where you sense it, where you feel it, where you can have an embodied experience of what it means when a humanized technology says it loves you, but end up harvesting your data or things like that. So I think art can really make all of us feel empowered to actually have the extremely vital conversation around which future do we want to move into, and how do we secure that we develop AI technology that helps us move into the human future we would like.
Thanks, Cecilie. And then, Niclas, you will be enlightening us about the digital knowledge of creators in the music industry. And please tell us, how high is the level of awareness? Is there a lot to do, or which are the areas where you think it's the most lacking?
First, I would like to correct you a bit on your introduction of me. I mean, you cannot call me the founder of Clip. Sylvie is sitting right there. I mean, come on. I'm a co-founder of Clip and Wipo for Creators. So Sylvie and I did it together with the Wipo team. So
Thank you.
Important. I got a bit stressed when I saw her looking at me. When you,
Luckily, I didn't.
yeah. Yeah, I also want to say thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it's interesting now when we're talking so much about AI. I've been a songwriter, music producer for over 30 years, and I've been through, it's been a roller coaster when it comes to new technology in the music industry. My first release was on vinyl, and then MP3 file came and file sharing. Then we really thought the music industry was dying, but we solved that, and now we have AI, and I'm very positive. I think it's a brilliant future. I love the technology. As usual, when new technology comes, needs to be standards, regulations, laws that controls how the market is going to deal with it. Unfortunately, I think the decision makers, like the policy makers, we here in this room, we are a bit too slow, because when we have decided on how we're going to handle this, boom, the reality is somewhere else. So I think we need to speed up a bit, as much as we can. But when it comes, I mean, creators today in music studios all over the world, they're all using the technology fully out. And so let's do something where we can let them do that, but in the same time have a control format especially for companies that are using copyright protected material to let them do it. How? I don't know. I mean, we all working on it here, but in the discussions here, I sometimes think we get lost in how it actually works. So we need to get down to real examples, real-world examples. Let's say that we manage to get the Gen AI companies to pay a license for using copyright-protected material. How do we distribute the money then out to the people and the organizations that actually should have it? I hear way too little about concrete examples. How are we actually going to be able to distribute the money? So we need to be more proactive and talk about this, because the kids, not the kids only, I'm not a kid, but I'm in the studio. We in the studio, we're using it and we want to use it, and it will be more and more and more and more. And we see more brilliant features that AI helps us, helps us in the studio. So I think it's brilliant, but I think we have time against us.
And could you please elaborate on Clip? For who it is for, and what features it might provide, because I think it's a good message that such tools exist.
So let me take that much credit on Clip, though, that I saw a big need of educate creators, because I have the great opportunity to work with two enormously successful music creators, Björn Ulvaeus from Ibán and Max Martin, and I got together with them because we wanted to solve another part of the problem in the industry, the metadata problem, which is also very related to AI, because if we don't know who did what, where, and when on the songs, we cannot even pay out to them as it is today, and then we add the AI layer, and it's going to be even more complicated. So we wanted to solve the metadata issues, and we think it's the most important, where you should do it. The most important time to capture metadata is in the studio when it happens, because then we tend to forget that, because when someone asks us who did what 6 months after we did it, we don't remember. So in that work of trying to solve the metadata issues, I faced every time I spoke to creators, when I asked them about obvious things that you need to know if you want to get paid for something. If you ask a songwriter, do you know what an IPI is? Mm-hmm. And they go like, no. And if you don't know what your social security number is as a songwriter, how can you expect to be credited and paid for your work? So, education. Education, education. And I hear it. I heard it so many times today, and I hear it everywhere I go in the world in different music industry conferences. We need to educate. And I was like, okay, let's see what's out there. So I was scanning what was available out there. And it's so much great education content out there already. But it's not 100% legally correct. Mm-hmm. There are small nuances that is not really correct, and if it's not correct, you will not get adoption from the music industry. So I came up with this idea to make a fully legally correct platform, digital, scalable, lot of videos, because we creators are lazy, so we don't want to read too much. We want to have someone that talks on a video, and a really attractive interface, but most important, that is correct. And then someone said to me, through Max and Björn, I have great opportunities to talk with high-profile people in the industry and CEOs of the big music companies, and everyone were like, that's great, but we needed a partner. And then someone said to me, you should talk to WIPO. And I was like, what? I'd never heard about WIPO, which is also sad because I was being a music creator for many years and I have never heard of the organization. And lucky enough, then I was introduced to Sylvie and her team, and we kind of clicked, yeah, let's do this together. And with that support from WIPO, we got the machinery and everything to really make it happen. So what we did was that we went out to the industry because we needed support from the industry. So we actually managed to do something that is pretty unique. We managed to gather all the 14 international music industry trade bodies, sat around the same table, and we were there for one reason, to help build an education platform for creators, so everyone in the world can learn how it works. So long answer to your question, what is CLIP? CLIP is a completely 100% free education platform that tells music creators how the music industry works, what IP rights are, all about the identifiers, everything you need to know to be able to get credited and paid. That's CLIP. CLIP is available in 7 different languages. goclip.org is the address. The mobile apps are coming early next year. So it's a brilliant, really nice, cool education platform. Free, and the content is 100% legally proved.
Thanks, and please check it out. It's worthwhile. So it makes, and as you heard, the mission here is to make maybe copyright a bit less complex and more understandable, and exactly for that tool helps. And it was also good to hear that you might have ties with the UIPO, and on the European level, that's, I think, would be also welcome. But now we will have to turn to Ibán. But maybe not yet.
That, without this man, the EU collaboration would never have happened, because we were talking about it, and to say no to me is not a good thing, because then I try to do the opposite. Because I was actually said after the meeting with Ibán in 23, I think, ish, like, I said, why can we not collaborate with the EU? And I got some voices within WIPO said, no, we can not work with the EU. And like what?
Oh,
I don't take no for an answer.
There. But let's turn to Ibán.
And I met him, and then I start calling people. And thanks to everyone in the room that's been part of this, especially everyone here at IUEPO that made it happen. But now CLIP is a part of the Creative Europe program from 2026. So that's great that we got to that point.
I agree. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Ibán, for that.
Ibán, please, then the scene is set for you, I guess. Please elaborate, being you a policy specialist, basically in this area as a former MEP, having there from the starting point on the discussions of AI and copyright. How do you see this framework we have now, and in terms of the international context, from your perspective, where are we?
Thank you very much first for the invitation, and congratulations for the conference. That has been super interesting, fruitful, even entertaining. That is quite difficult to combine all this technical stuff with the amusing approach. I was thinking, by the way, Niclas, that I was thinking that because of things like you were saying, I'm not in the parliament anymore. That is quite likely that was related to some of my initiatives. But anyway, beforehand, I would like to acknowledge something, that for the creative sector, this is this point in which it is facing this challenge to combine taking advantage of the technology improvement, and at the same time, of course, protect this vital threat that in several ways is posing these new technologies. Is not new. The creative sector, you know better than me, is always lamentably the weakest link in the chain and has to fight quite extremely sometimes to try to thrive. No? In that regard, this happened with internet first, then with the platform economy, and it ended after years and years of striving. It ended with this copyright directive of 2019 that is, of course, not perfect, has some loopholes. We were speaking about improvement, the measures against piracy, and many others. Of course, I sum up to this demand of signing finally the Beijing Treaty. But at the end, I think that we have the most, and we took notice here in some of the panels, we have the most sophisticated, sounded, well-designed framework of legal protection. I think that our problem is more about the enforcement, and we were saying quite profoundly about this problem too in these days. Of course, it's a matter of enforce the legislation, the regulation that we already have in the most meaningful way for artists, that at the end of the day is no more than making the goal that was designed for all this regulation. And of course, we can improve some things like the harmonization of rights inside the European Union. Some of the member states were super reluctant and in a way sometimes even delaying the transposition of the directive, but at the end we have it. And in that sense, I would like to raise a point because you know that there's something that, from my point of view, is really different from times before. That is the balance between the players are the most not equilibrated in the history. So these big tech companies in this moment have the most power of setting agenda than ever, and we had some of hints of that this very week with this omnibus digital announced measures taken by the Commission. In that sense, I would like to raise awareness about being super cautious at the moment of proposing a new piece of legislation, because we have something to protect. That is our framework, and this, by the way, by voting around the cornerstone, that is the exclusive rights, that is different from other regulations around, is quite more comprehensive and quite more granting than others. And of course, that means, for instance, approaching to generative AI, that right holders has the right to say no or yes. To say, okay, I would like to license, whether I like in an individual or collective way, or simply no, I have the right to that. And this is something that we have, from my point of view, tools enough to grant with the current situation. And just finally, and linked with all that I was saying, there's a saying in Spain that is, some experiments is better to do with soda. So when we propose new ways of facing these generative AI challenges and so on, this couldn't be at the cost of undermining the rights of right holders. In exchange of some kind of levy that nobody knows how much is going to be, in which way. So I would be super cautious with that, providing that the situation right now, even to open a new piece of legislation, is quite unbalanced and might be not a very good news for the sector.
Thank you. And I pick on what you said, that you are your message is not to touch legislation at this stage or policies, which turns us to those practical opportunities that EU IPO or other stakeholders might, or institutions might provide. What do you see here as possible developments or good signs in terms of practical?
As I said, I think that, I don't know if you remember this show, The White Wing, no? There's a chapter that is something like, let Bartlett be Bartlett, no? I would say, let Europeans be Europeans. So let us not get intimidated by the pressure that is coming from abroad. Don't let us ourselves. this very week, there was, I think that was yesterday, there was a decision on a commercial court in Spain that was a collective demand that posed the press editors together against Meta. Wasn't related to AI, but to the GDPR compliance and to unfair competition. And there was a final decision on that is almost 500 million in favor of these demanders against Meta for not complying with the legislation. And there's a quote that I like to read out for you because it's beautiful from the judge. That is responding to the other part and is saying, it is not valid to say excessive regulation stifles their business model, which is designed for economies with greater freedom of enterprise, is saying Meta. It is Meta that has to adapt to the GDPR, not the GDPR that has to adapt to Meta. A market of almost 500 million inhabitants in the European Union is well worth the effort. As saying something like Paris is well worth a mass. No? And I think that at the end is the final conclusion. We have the tools, so we have to be brave enough to enforce in the defense of our values, because our completely acquiesce is the projection of our values. So in that sense, we are defending ourselves. And besides, I like to take advantage of what Niclas said, because I'm super agree with this quote. The most important in this moment, and everybody was highlighting in many ways, the most important thing in this moment with this new super deployment of AI everywhere is raise awareness and enlightenment and alphabetization and so on and so forth. So initiatives like now seriously, initiatives like Niclas was presenting here, this new branch that is presenting this very day, EUIPO of knowledge on copyright, the supporting and the routing of initiatives, collective initiatives by people in the creative sector. This all is the most important that we have to grant for the future. So keep on strong and don't get intimidated.
And can we add to that then that a news also is that Clip covers music today, but we're working on visual arts. So hopefully next year we will add visual arts to the platform. So
thank you. That's a very good positive message at the end, and Harry is approaching, so I think we will have to start. But yeah, just of course, just to conclude, then we heard a lot. I think it's quite clear that there's a lot of attention around what we are dealing with, which is good. Also, what UIPO is taking this role now. Of course, we're in the middle of the road. But AI is not just devil. It can be tamed. It can be used by creators, and we will find the means for it. So let's be positive.
Of course.
Can I add one thing? Can I add one thing? Can I add one more thing?
Completely off.
Fair enough.
But okay, if it's 1 second.
No, I think just a message to the young artists and young performers that may be looking, watching us. I think the message that I would like to give them is to get involved. These may all sound very technical, very difficult, but in fact, it's hugely important that they also part of the conversation. They shouldn't feel scared, and they need to be in this conversation as well. And I think they need to realize that if they are not in it, they will probably be on the menu. So it's better that they are in the conversation. Maybe make a few mistakes, but it's better to be in the conversation than to be outside. So
Indeed.
Definitely, this is an encouragement for all of them to get involved.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Big applause for this final panel.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Very good.